Welcome to the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. Just like you, I'm an independent retail business owner. I love the home decor and gift boutique I co-own with my sister, but I don't want it to consume me or my life. Join me each week as I share lessons learned, helpful tips, and valuable information for your retail business and life. Whether you're buying your products or making your products, whether you're a $25K business or a $2.5 million business, I'm on a mission to help indie retailers work less, profit more, and grow. Let's get started on today's episode. Welcome to episode 160 of the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast. Surround yourself with big thinkers and action takers. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. If you haven't heard, I'm hosting a virtual conference in May. Yep, it's going to be a 2-day conference, all on Zoom, all virtual, to talk all things retail store ownership so you can work on your business. I'll have a lot more to share about this soon. But if you want to grab the best ticket price I'm going to offer, if you want to get a mailed virtual conference kit, and it's going to be fun, and you want first dibs on day 3, which is going to be a small group momentum day, you want to get on the wait list. And that's savvyshopkeeper.com/waitlist. Just sign up for the wait list, and as soon as tickets are available, you'll get an email and all of the details. I'll also be sharing more of the details as we go along. Okay, so I'm kicking off this episode with an apology to my husband. He recently listened to episode 152. That's where I was talking about taking the leap to full-time entrepreneur. And I mentioned him and Logan quite a bit. Well, I had my timeline completely wrong. Not completely wrong, a part of it wrong. My long-term memory has a lot to be desired, so this doesn't necessarily surprise me. But it did surprise him. In that episode, I said he didn't come into my life until after I opened the store, but he was actually on the journey the entire time, even when Karen and I first started the blog. So talk about a palm to face moment. In my defense, so much of that time period was a blur for me. And if you listen to episode 152, you'll completely understand what I mean. Anyhow, I stand corrected, and thank you both to Andy and Logan for being on this journey with me from day one, even if I couldn't remember that. All right, my intention for this episode is to share the benefits of surrounding yourself with people who think and play big. The people who you surround yourself with, they do influence a lot of what you do, from the clothing you wear to how you run your business and what beliefs sometimes you hold. And while you can counteract some of this subconscious conditioning with your thoughts, it's hard to do that if you don't recognize the types of people you surround yourself with in the first place. I often talk about my childhood and background. I have an incredible mom. We call her Mamita. She is the most inspiring person I know. I know a lot of people say that about her parents, but it is 100% truth. My mom, she raised us in a really well-kept home. It was sparkling clean. She wouldn't have it any other way. It was always nicely decorated, and she took really good care of us no matter what. I can go on and on about my Mamita. However, we were poor, and we were raised on welfare by a single parent. She was a single parent, and financially things were always a struggle. She raised us to be good, hardworking humans, and she kept us safe, but needless to say, we didn't live in the best neighborhoods. This episode is brought to you by Master Shopkeepers, my mastermind group for brick-and-mortar retail store owners. If you're craving support, connection, inspiration, and motivation for your retail business, apply to join us. It doesn't matter what stage of shopkeeping you're in. What matters is your drive to work less, profit more, and grow, both personally and professionally. Learn more at savvyshopkeeper.com/group membership. That's savvyshopkeeper.com/group membership, all one word. Before I share my story with you, I want to acknowledge that my story overall may not be your story, but what I'm hoping for is that you'll find it relatable. Maybe you can't identify with living in poverty or crime-ridden neighborhoods. However, People with limiting beliefs, they come in all shapes and sizes and forms, right? They come from all walks of life, all socioeconomic levels. And that makes me think or ask you, have you been conditioned? What program thinking has been instilled in you? What do people around you repeatedly tell you that you know deep down you don't want to believe? When I look back at my youth, I knew at a young age that I wanted more. I've talked about this in previous podcast episodes. More wealth, which in turn, for me, means more giving, more experiences, more travel, an overall better financial life. And it took a long time for me to get here. I could sense that sometimes I wanted more than the people around me. And it wasn't a judgment. It still isn't a judgment on me or them. It's just how I'm made up. It also took a long time for me to get here, to embrace who I really am. Anyhow, after I graduated high school, I went on to college to get a degree. And this wasn't the norm where I came from. One night I was out with friends and a group of guys that we grew up with were in this bar that we were at. And we were all leaving the location. And I can't recall exactly what happened or what led to this, but one of the guys must not have felt comfortable. Actually, I won't say must not have. He wasn't comfortable with who I was becoming. And he started yelling at me, "You're from the ghetto and you'll always be from the ghetto." He was angry. He was so angry. And this was his way of communicating to me that he wanted to keep me there in that small type of thinking. It wasn't so much about my neighborhood or where I came from. It was that he didn't like who I was becoming. And let me add that I don't deny where I come from, ever. In fact, I embrace it. It made me who I am. And in fact, I served in the city I grew up in for almost 20 years, and I still love Cleveland. I love the diversity. I love the culture. I love the history. I love so much of Cleveland. But living in poverty and living in a constant financial struggle and being surrounded by people who don't want to see me succeed or want me to stay in their small world doesn't have to define me. It doesn't have to define me. For instance, just because other people around me, maybe they think money is evil, it doesn't mean that I have to think or believe this. I know the opposite to be true. The more I make, the more everyone I love, organizations I care about, people I believe in, people that I want to support, they benefit from that. And I will not apologize for that. And it's not even so much an apology. I didn't apologize. It's just that I didn't allow myself to fully embrace this part of me, what I really, really wanted. This episode is brought to you by my free resource, 100 plus social media ideas and prompts for retail store owners. It's easy to get into a rut with social media marketing and not know what to post about. Get this 21-page downloadable resource filled with a list of long ideas so you can be inspired to post and market your brick and mortar store. Visit savvyshopkeeper.com/100 ideas. That's the number 100 and the word ideas all together. savvyshopkeeper.com/100 ideas and sign up for my newsletter to get the list. As I approach 50 years old, I am finally embracing the big thinker and dreamer in me. And I recently realized that I have a couple, and before I say this, if you have little ones, mute, turn off, pause. Anyhow, I recently realized that I have a couple badass biz besties who truly get my big dreams and goals, but more importantly, who have similar drives. They think and take big action. Every time I chat with them, whether it's on text or on a phone call, in person, via Voxer. If you don't know what Voxer is, it's a walkie-talkie app. And it's funny because one of my biz besties, she loves Voxer. The other one does not. So we all communicate differently. But every time I chat with them, it fuels me up even more. I get more excited about all of the things that I want to do. Because I hear them talking about their next move. I hear them talking about their big wins. And not only do I get excited for them, but internally it gets me to embrace the big thinker and dreamer in me. It gets me to stop suppressing the big goals I have. Their action, it inspires and motivates me. It also sometimes reminds me how I can still play small at times, and I'm making progress here, don't get me wrong. I have a podcast that I think is in like the top 15% of podcasts worldwide. That's crazy. That's not playing small, right? But I still hide at times, and I can sense this is shifting though. This is why I constantly crave being around badass women. This is one of the many reasons I created Master Shopkeepers. It's the group I always wanted to be a part of. The amount of badass women in that group, they're beyond inspiring, and they motivate me. They inspire me to be a better expert. They inspire me to be a better coach, a better business owner, and a better human being. And I love that. I'm sure you've all heard the expression, you are the sum of who you surround yourself with, or something like that. But I genuinely believe it's true. If you don't have people who lift you up or make you or allow you to think big and dream big, you may not realize that this is a part of your life that's either holding you down or keeping you from taking the action your heart truly desires. This is why I'm recording this episode. Some of you may not even realize that that's what's happening, and some of you may. Either way, if this is an area of your life and business you want to improve, that will mean making some changes and most likely setting some boundaries. And this could mean with loved ones too. I want to add that I don't want you to take me wrong here. That does not mean that I'm telling you have to cut out all of your negative loved ones from your life. That's not what I mean at all. We can keep those loved ones in our life. We can keep them close to us. But we have to learn how to set boundaries around them or around their thinking in order to protect our own thoughts. I recently heard someone say entrepreneurship is a game of personal development. If you don't have the business you want, it's because you haven't become the person who can run it yet. But I'm going to slightly change that because what gets you there is belief. So here's my version, and I'm going to say it twice, because this is going to be really impactful for some of you. Entrepreneurship is a game of personal development. If you don't have the business you want, it's because you don't believe you're the person who can run it. And if you're multitasking, please stop and listen again. Entrepreneurship is a game of personal development. If you don't have the business you want, it's because you don't believe you're the person who can run it. So this is my point. If you surround yourself with people who keep you from believing, or even with people who have, maybe struggling thoughts or thoughts of their own that then trigger yours, how will you believe? It's a vicious cycle. Surround yourself with big thinkers and action takers, and then maybe I should also say believers. If you want to see the show notes to this episode or find links to anything I mentioned, visit my blog at savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 160. Until the next episode, be savvy and boss up.
Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You look great. What have you been doing?
I found Zelthy. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe the same active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s for 80 to 90% less without insurance. All of mine shipped right to your door.
Get started with Zelthy today for just $39. Call #250 and say keyword CARE. That's CARE to #250.